Welcome to NCPDP, Unscripted, the podcast where healthcare meets real talk. Each episode, we will dive into unscripted conversations with industry leaders, changemakers, and innovators, discussing the challenges, breakthroughs, and behind-the-scenes stories you won't hear anywhere else. Whether you're on your morning commute or taking a break between meetings, settle in because it's time to get unscripted.
All right, well, Kelly and Jeff, super excited to have you on our new podcast, NCPDP Unscripted. So I know both of you have been longtime members, and Kelly, you've been involved in the strategic planning committee. Jeff, of course, you're on the board, so excited to have you guys on.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, all right. Well, I know our NCPDP members probably know who you are, but our other listeners may not. So, Kelly, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Sure. I'm Kelly Petzelt, and I work for Scenario. I'm the Vice President of Sales. And basically what we're trying to do is get AI to take the task off the pharmacist by replacing IVR and doing more of a personal touch to IVR, making it more human.
Fantastic. Mm-hmm. Great. And Jeff?
Jeff Deitch. I'm the founder and CEO of InfoWorks, and in a nutshell, we move data.
Fantastic. Excellent. Well, I know what we wanted to talk about today was REMS. So REMS is not the sleep thing, right, Kelly?
Rapid eye movement. Yeah.
Not rapid eye movement, but basically an FDA program that requires maybe additional information, education on certain drugs, right? Is that the best way to explain it? So I know NCPDP has had basically standards related to REMS for a long time. But HL7, the clinical side, they started a use case a few years ago. I know you're the use case coordinator. You want to just give the listeners a little background on that?
Sure, definitely. So REMS is Risk Evaluation Mitigation Strategies. So that's what it stands for anyway. But the problem was always getting the information to multiple stakeholders and not using faxes and phone calls and things like that. So the main problem is this patient really needs medication, but it's taking forever to get through the whole process. So what we were looking at doing was trying to handle that on the provider side, because NCPDP, like you said, they've had the standards and all, but we couldn't get that information through. So that's kind of how we got Jeff involved, because he moves data. So we were trying to figure out how we could get that information to what NCPDP has already done in a nutshell.
Excellent. Jeff, from your standpoint, I love that we move data. So do you want to talk a little bit about that and how your role plays?
Yeah, absolutely. So, traditionally, REMS has been initiated by the provider, by the physician side of things. And one of the things that we looked at was that a lot of the burden on managing these scripts actually is put on the pharmacist. They get these scripts, they have to find out that they're a REMS script, they have to figure out what checks and balances need to be done, oftentimes switching to multiple computer systems to do it. And through my connection and long-time involvement with NCPDP, I knew we already had a standard in place to handle that, and I wondered why wasn't this being addressed from a more pharmacy-centric view, since that's where so much of the burden was. So, it's funny you mentioned the sleep thing, because Kelly approached me about 3 years ago and asked me, what do you know about REMS? And I said, you mean the sleep thing, like everybody else?
Or the band. We can,
of course,
we can get them into,
Of course, I learned pretty quickly what she meant, and thank you for getting me involved in this. It's it allowed us to create an opportunity both to work with HL7, but also to take a more pharmacy-centric view of solving this problem.
Great. And you guys got an NCPDP Foundation grant, right, to do some work around
We
this?
did. That's after a couple of years, we came up with that idea, which was to actually put in place some technology to actually deal with this data exchange, and approach the foundation with the idea of allowing us and giving us some funding to make this a reality. Once we had the grant application written and approved, we put in place some exceptional partners at Syneos Health, which is a REMS administrator, and with CVS Specialty as our pharmacy partner. And we've been working for about a year now, all three of us, to develop the technology, develop the API calls and the data exchange formats. We're, of course, using script to communicate between the pharmacy and our pharmacy intermediary. but then communicating with the REMS administrators and their communication with the physicians is mostly done in HL7 FHIR or in a proprietary standard. So we've been able to interconnect all these different standards and ways of doing things to provide an end-to-end data flow to get these prescriptions from the provider all the way into the patient's hands as quickly and safely as possible.
I love it, and it's a perfect example, right? What we've talked about for so long of how, our standards, right? They're going to work side by side, and it doesn't have to be one or the other. It's really just looking at workflow. There may be HL7 standards, there may be NCPDP. So this is a perfect example of that. So I want to touch on something that's kind of brand new, the Collaborate effort. Kelly, I know you kind of came to us and said, hey, we want to do this Connect-a-thon, this thing called Collaborate. I want you to talk about that, and then Jeff, I'd love for you to chime in on the kind of the PTI side of it. So Kelly, you want to just talk a little bit about that?
So I think as we were going through, to understand the standards, how valuable they really are, but they're only valuable if they work together, right? Because they continues to be fragmented, and we can't truly get interoperability without using both. So we were working on our Connect-a-thon with HL7, but it was only half of the information, so we still had the same problem, So we thought if we could actually test what we've tested now on the HL7 Connect-a-thon and create one on the NCPDP side where we can start getting the pharmacy the information that they need. And I really feel like this is the foundation for interoperability for more things, not just REMS, but REMS was manageable. Jeff, we looked up yesterday, there's 77 REMS drugs today, which sounds small, but they're all different.
Yeah.
And so with that, how can we create this and then use that data that we finally can get out of the EHR into a pharmacy system? And so Collaborate will be able to use NCPDP standards to do that and test those out now as well.
Fantastic.
And so Jeff's task groups.
When Kelly approached me with this idea, and then we brought it to you,
right?
Right? As you know, this is one of the kind of innovations that we've been wanting to bring to NCPDP for a while, and have these type of working sessions and collaboration sessions, whether it's on technology or process or whatever it is. And I think both of us kind of triggered off of this and said, wow, this is a way we could actually do this, and it feeds into our collaboration with HL7 very nicely. Me from a board strategic planning level, I know that this kind of checks a lot of our boxes on our strategic plan, moves the organization in a direction that we very much want to go. One of the things I also do is I co-chair the PTI task group, which is Pharmacy Technology Innovation. And we've held some roundtables, we've done some different things, but this is exactly the type of event that we want to come out of that task group. And so I think we all came together and realized what a great opportunity this was. It's been very fast in the making, very exciting. We've generated a lot of buzz for it already. Our partners at HL7 and CodeX are very excited about the opportunity and working with us. So it's we've just had a great time so far, and really look forward to putting this all together and pulling it off. And what we aim to show is really that complete end-to-end solution. So from the time the prescriber puts that prescription into the EHR, everything that must happen, all the stakeholders involved, whether it's the REMS adjudication and getting that RDA number, or the prior auth involved, sending the e-script, every single aspect of it, eventually putting that medication in the patient's hands quickly and safely so that they can get what they need as fast as possible. That's ultimately what it's all about. It's been a struggle so far in the industry, but now the technology's been developed through both our groups, through CodeX and through the grant we received and the work we've done there, and we're ready to show it off.
That's fantastic.
July 8th.
So July
July
8th.
Yes,
So July
collaborate on
8th,
it.
and the registration's all set up. So folks that might be interested in joining, so this is going to be basically connect-a-thon, folks coming together, testing things out. And I know, through PTI, right, we're talking about doing more of these at the work group meetings, which I'm really excited about. So,
Very
first time
excited about that.
NCPDP is doing something like this. So really thrilled.
I've been coming
see
to
that.
NCPDP and work group meetings for decades now, and there was a time when the work group meetings had a lot more work getting done in them, and we're excited about the opportunity to bring that atmosphere back and have the people in the room and collaborate together and do that rising tide lifts all boats thing, right? Where we solve some of the problems we're all having, and with whatever of our standards it is. Right, and just pushing things forward for the industry as a whole.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I know we only have about a minute, so Kelly, anything else in terms of kind of what people should know about the REMS use case and what you guys are doing and kind of how the future is going to look?
Yes, definitely. I think that this is actually, obviously we're going to do something that has not been done before and actually finish end-to-end 2 standards, multiple companies, and for CodeX, this is a very big deal, and then on the NCPDP side, they've had a lot of great things and just not being able to be used,
It's
like the REMS
also
process.
a very big deal.
Yes,
right?
it's a huge deal, right? So for both of them to come together, putting the pharmacist in the picture, in the decision-making process for a change, bringing them to the table to be able to do that, I think that's also a really big deal. And so we're just very excited. The people that we've been working with, Jeff's company's going above and beyond, and so we're just really excited to see how that ends up.
Fantastic.
And ultimately, like Kelly always makes sure to mention, this is all about the patient.
It is.
Right?
It really is. And that's what I love about it, and being able to have a full solution, like you said, Jeff, right, to make it easier from writing the prescription to dispensing a REMS drug is going to make it be so much easier. So
I also think, you have to put in that this really is the foundation for so much for the pharmacy to finally be able to getting the information. I always like to add pharmacogenomics and digital therapeutics, but we really are laying the
VBA,
foundation.
right?
Yeah.
We're trying to
it's laying the tracks, that's what we always say.
trying to create that data interchange.
Fantastic. Well, I just want to thank you both for joining me on the podcast today.
Thanks for
and
having us.
Super excited to see the July 8th event and see how that goes. So
Well, we're always excited to talk about it.
Yes,
So,
we are.
Thanks
Yes,
for
we
having
are.
us.
thank you. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Bet.
That's a wrap on this episode of NCPDP Unscripted. Thanks for joining us as we explore the voices and ideas driving innovation in healthcare. If you'd like to be a guest on the show or have topic ideas you'd love to hear us cover, we want to hear from you. Until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and stay unscripted. Our podcast is proudly sponsored by Marks Productions.